Live.
Dr. Batra, it's great to have you with us today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Namaskar.
Wonderful to be here and to talk to you. I must tell you, I'm married to homeopathy. Here I feel that I'm flirting with you about photography. So happy to be on a kind of on a flirt session.
Thank you so much. And it's a great pleasure to have you with us. In fact, I'm sure all the viewers would be very, very excited with all the questions that I have for you. And not only that, in terms of photography, of course, you've been actually you've been making photography as a platform for altruism, which is actually one of the most interesting things about your work. But I may be getting a little ahead of myself. Please let me introduce you formally to all the viewers out there. This session is very special because Dr. Batra is the father of modern homeopathy. He's known as the father of modern homeopathy. It's a title that has been conferred, or rather, it's been earned by Dr. Batra after many, many decades of struggle, of endeavor, of treating lakhs and lakhs and lakhs of patients. So let me just get on with the formal introduction. Many may not know that Dr. Batra is also a very, very avid photographer with over 50 exhibitions that he has conducted all over the world, in art galleries all over the world. He uses photography altruistically to help a variety of causes. He titles his exhibition as Magic Moments. And the latest one was actually held this March at NCPA, at the Piramal Art Gallery, and just before this lockdown. And all the proceeds were donated to wildlife and environment, specifically to alleviate the damage caused by the Australian bushfire crisis that really decimated the wildlife and animals, and various species went extinct because of that bushfire in Australia recently, if people remember. Photography is a very personal hobby with Dr. Batra. He started photography with the encouragement of his family and friends over 15 years ago, more than 15 years ago. And since then, he's been an avid traveler. He's been shooting all the time. And every time he travels, he makes it a point to actually, take some time off and do some photography. So, Dr. Batra, welcome. And I'm sure that our guests also have a lot of questions for you. So if you have questions, my earnest request to all the viewers is please ask the questions towards the end of the program. We are keeping this program at about 45 minutes. So please ask the questions towards the end of the program. That will be when we will be taking these questions, live. So Dr. Batra, thank you very much for joining, and let me get to my first question, which is obviously about your beginnings in photography. You started 40 years ago. You started about 15 years ago. At that point of time, you were about 45 years old. So knowing I'm about 45 now, I'm 44 now, and I know that this is the busiest part of your life. This must have been the busiest part of your life, especially going by your history and by what you were doing back then. How did you manage to do so many things? I mean, you did photography. How did photography come to you at that point of time, in the busiest part of your life?
So thank you, Madhavan. You're glad I'm not a woman and I'm a man, because you're starting up, the show with asking my age. I started photography not when I was 45. I started photography when I was 55, and I'm now close to 70. So to do it at a stage of your life, and I was still reasonably busy at that time. I was working very hard. I was also seeing patients, but I did manage to find time. So I actually started off as a family photographer. I think all of us, started off like that, some stage or the other. Not the professional ones, but the amateur ones. And I started off as a family photographer. And I remember that my first exhibition was held at a bank, Citibank, because the head of Citibank was a patient and a friend, and so he said, why don't you just have an exhibition here? And so after banking hours, we had two exhibitions. One was at Nariman Point in Khar, and one was Nariman Point, and the other one was in Khar, on different days. And Citibank hosted.
Right.
And obviously, I just thought, I said, I mean, if a bank, a kind of an American bank can host my photography, I must not be that bad. So it actually encouraged me until, of course, Atul Kasbekar, who came to the show as well, whispered in my ear, said, Doc, I think you should use a tripod. So I then understood that, my hand not that. So from that time onwards, I've actually improved a lot, and I did buy a tripod, but I don't use it now. And I've kind of evolved over a period of time, across 50 exhibitions into many countries, many cities, and I've enjoyed myself very much. So really, that's how it started, because I had a kind of a family holiday in Kufri. We got tied down there because it snowed, and I had my camera with me, and then I just started shooting, and that was my first exhibition. And then later on, Farzana, contractor, also has been very helpful, very kind. She's been encouraging me. So when she was part of the afternoon, group of newspapers, that time she kind of, sent somebody to cover me and also to piece on me, and also, selected one of my photographs. So again, I thought that, I mean, if my photograph can be selected, then it couldn't be so bad. And what also happened with, with that first exhibition was that, I think, to encourage me, Citibank actually bought some of the pictures for charity, and they put it up in the gold lounges. They had some gold lounges. So they put it up in Khar Gold Lounge, and also in the Nariman Point. So that kind of encouraged me, and I said, wow, every time I go there or anybody else goes there, you see my picture on the wall. It was very flattering at that time. So it kind of encouraged me, and then I went on. I kind of evolved from there.
So this Citibank buying your photographs happened at your very first exhibition. That's incredible. That's what photographers would have loved.
Yeah. Well, that must have been the only 4 pictures I sold, but yes, it happened.
Right. But that's how photography happens for most of us. In fact, even with me and with my family, for me the fascination bit when I saw my dad taking photos of family, and even that's the thing. The closest kind of photography to most of us is actually our family photos, and which is also the reason that I stress. Photography is more a matter of love, more a matter of being engaged with your own family than anything else. If you love photography, that means it begins with your family. Charity begins at home, as they say. So let me ask you the second question. You mentioned that your first exhibition was 15 years ago, but that was, of course, something that was prompted. But you held a Magic Moments exhibition. So was this the Magic Moments exhibition that you were talking about in your profile?
Yes. So I'm saying every exhibition of mine was entitled Magic Moments. That was the kind of branding that exhibition got. And every year I had at least,
correct,
not more. So Magic Moments was also called Magic Moments because not only did I capture, beautiful scenery and bring it back, but also because it was for a cause. And, I will always believe that all of us have, some kind of hobby that we can do, and we all have some kind of talent. And my thought was that why don't we use, if all of us were to use our talent, even in a little way to, for the benefit of society, we can all make a difference. And that's what I
Of course, very much.
Photography, and then I started, and I think that's also what encouraged me to actually do very well, because I had a reason, I had a cause that I believed in. I mean, I knew that I had to take good pictures, I had to improve myself every year, and I had to take better and better pictures, and then I had to kind of, because they had to sell, otherwise, my cause is lost, so I can't just hang the wall and then pat my back and say lovely and great,
Right.
Of course, I've been encouraged by media like yours to kind of, carried my pictures, of my exhibition and kind of encourage me. So I think encouragement is flown all around, and nothing like encouragement. It kind of makes you feel that you're on the right track, and then you always think, chalo lage raho munna bhai, keep on going.
Right. So you mentioned that your friends, family, they were all very encouraging. But I would like to ask you this particular question. Right. Yeah. Let me ask you this question now regarding the evolution of your photography. So everybody has got these. Speaking of magic moments, everybody has got personal magic moments. Personal areas of revelation. of evolution, especially when they take photography very seriously. And you have been taking photography very seriously with an exhibition conducted year after year after year. So, can you tell us a little bit about your personal history with the subject of photography, your personal revelations or the evolution with the subject of photography?
So I think I started first with manual cameras. That was the age that time. And I remember that, the one with the rolls. And I remember that because I was so passionate about it, and there were not opportunities to develop at that time in India and print in India. So I actually used to get them printed, going through rolls of, carrying rolls with me, and then, selecting them, and then printing select pictures, developing them and printing them and bringing them back to India for the exhibition. So all my earlier exhibitions were manual, and the printing was done, through the rolls in either London or in Switzerland, where I was shooting in Europe. And then I would carry that back home and then get them framed. So that's how it actually evolved. And I was very, very, very resistant to changing the digital. Atul told me many times, and Farzana actually, kind of almost forced me, saying that you don't know what you're missing. Just move to digital.
Right.
You'll be a person.
Right.
I moved to digital only a few years ago. Very, very late in the game.
Oh.
And of course.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
And I was in Dubai, and Nikon, UAE presented me with an A7, one of the latest cameras, because I was supposed to go to South America to shoot. So they said, shoot and then bring it back to us, and we'll have an exhibition here. Unfortunately, it got cancelled because of COVID. So I've also kept evolving. Then my cameras moving up, every 2 years, 3 years, buying a new model, and then I realized that then a lot of it really is, for me, a lot of it is really, just focusing, getting the frame right, getting the visualization correct, because then a lot of it is automatic nowadays. It's much easier, compared to the manual days when you were actually, have to. So now, I just put it on auto setting and just click. It's as simple as that, most of the time.
Well, you make it sound simple, but I know from experience that in the old, so those of us who use film call it the good old days of film. In the good old days of film, every exposure made a difference. Every frame counted, was counted. Every frame was thought about, because you only had those 36 exposures in one roll of film. It was.
How happy you felt if you got the 37th picture.
I know, yes, exactly. You load the film so carefully.
Yeah, you are so, and of course you have to visualize better, and you have to, now today you can take 3,000 and then shoot just 3 of them. So that's the kind of advantage.
Correct. So
in a way, my grandson, we have traveling holidays together, and I always tell him this, and he's also into photography, and he also has exhibitions with me. He has a little corner called Raymond's Corner. So I tell him the same thing. I said, you've got these fabulous pictures, but you got them after shooting. Now you should learn how to choose just the right picture. So if you shoot 10 pictures, then all 10 must make the exhibition. And then I know that you now become
absolutely, yeah. Correct. The percentage of good pictures to bad pictures.
Yeah, and I don't Photoshop my pictures. I don't touch them at all, which is again a good thing. But like I said, actually evolved. Keyur has asked which camera do I use, and yes, I use presently I'm using a Canon Mark IV, and I said that I've already kind of been introduced to a Nikon G7, which I have been trained on in the. We took a training session because they came to me and taught me how to use it, because it was a different, which I was supposed to use in South America but didn't happen yet. So in that
right. So the latest camera that you're using is the Z7.
Yes.
Okay, that's wonderful. Actually, it's a very fine camera indeed. Both, so both the Mark IV and the Z7 both are very fine cameras indeed. So you particularly, I noticed that you enjoy traveling from your previous exhibitions and from the photographs that I've seen. I've got a couple of exhibitions. The photographs that I've seen, that you love traveling, you love moving around, and every time you go somewhere, it seems like you take a camera and you're off, for some time for shooting. How does it work? So do you take an off from your work to shoot? And what comes first? Is traveling the reason for your photography, or is photography the reason for your travel? How does it work out?
So actually, photography is the reason for my travel. It's the other way around.
Okay.
For me, photography is number one. And I actually take photographic holidays. And I'm glad you asked me this question because, photographic holidays actually can be very painful. And I think my family members have kind of disowned me. I mean, they don't want to come for one of the photographers. Get up at 3 in the morning to take the sunrise of the Himalayas or of the Alps, and then you're just traveling with heavy kind of equipment. That time the cameras were even heavier, and you're lugging them all around, and then you're waiting just for the train to chug and to cross that bridge and just to get that right shot at that angle. And you're just waiting there for, an hour or two. And if you miss one train, you wait for the next one to come, which could be 2 hours later. So it's really not fun. It's actually, it's a passion.
Right.
It's a passion that drives you. So I do a lot of research, and I plan one new country or one new city every year. So I have covered almost the entire globe. I mean, I have been to Alaska a few years ago, covered that. I have been to Maldives on this side. I have, been to almost every city in Europe, Italy, Rome. I've done, Austria, all Germany, all of that. So I've been to, Stockholm. I've done that. So I've captured, almost, but every year I make sure that I visit one city, and then I kind of plan like a 4-day or a 14-day trip, depending on how much time I have and what is the need of the hour. How much, but these are exclusive photographic trips where I carry my camera. Let me tell you that on my work trips, I don't carry a camera. I only use my handphone, with Instagram, just for casual pictures.
Right.
I don't carry a camera. I don't have time because it's either work or it's photography. I can't mix the two.
Right.
So when I'm working, I'm really very busy working.
It's difficult to mix the two.
I don't have time, and most of the work is done in cities, and I like to do outdoors.
Right.
Because I like to get out of.
So in my particular case, I'm fortunate because I have a job that involves photography all the time. So I keep getting cameras like the Z7 and the Mark IVs, and I'm supposed to use them. I officially supposed to use them and try them, test them out, and and come back with results. So it keeps me very engaged and alive. My job actually is photography. It really helps that way. Yes, I am. Thank you.
We call that, a busman's holiday. I mean, you drive the bus and you see the countryside. So I've done with my Z7 if I've taken that trip, because then I've got a camera which I've not paid for, and I'm still going to see the countryside, and I'm taking pictures, and then I'm coming and posting them. So yeah, it's a very happy place to be in, because if your work is your passion, it can't get any better.
Correct. That's true. That is absolutely true. And speaking of solitary holidays, I know exactly what you mean. So sometimes before my marriage, my friends used to be very irritated with me, because I would tag along with them for all these holidays, and I would ask them, okay, can we stop right here? And then I would spend 10 minutes there, and then we got to stop it. So they finally got used to it. They eventually got used to it, but it was not easy getting used to situation. So they would frequently complain.
I had the same problem. So what I now do is I drive myself, self-drive. I don't drive in India, but I self-drive so that I can park the car wherever I want and go and take a picture, and not depend on tell me, stop here or do that, because really they get very irritated. I know the feeling. I've been through it.
Right. Oh, yeah. So in fact, my wife, earlier, now she's used to it, but my wife sometimes used to say that, the camera is now like my second wife. So yes, so it does create some complication at home. So I have noticed that in today's world of social media, especially, there is and also considering that you've had a number of exhibitions, there is a statement that is often said, and I've heard this statement quite often in the past, because I'm not particularly on social media. I'm not a very social media savvy person, but you are. You have a numerous number of posts. So there is a statement that comes through. You are what you present. You are who you present. In fact, let me say that the last person that I heard saying this was Zakir Hussain in an interview that I recently watched. NCP is from Mumbai is putting up a lot of these old interviews, recorded interviews. So I watched it, and Zakir Hussain was the one who said that, who also said that you are who you present. And something that I've heard in the past also, because eventually the people who see you on social media, see you through exhibitions, So there are many photographers for whom identity and success comes from validation. I would be very interested to know what you think about this.
So,
success through validation because other people see you in a certain way.
And of course, validation is very important, but it doesn't have to come through social media. So for me, validation is when my photographs sell. For me, validation is when they go to good homes. So my photographs today, one of my pictures was taken by the governor at that time. It was put in Raj Bhavan in the VIP room. Every kind of VIP that came had to see my photograph. It was a picture of Switzerland, and it had Matterhorn in the background. So for me, that's validation. If you go to a corporate office of say Mr. Rajiv Bajaj, and you find that my photograph is at the background, for me that's validation. If you go to a film star's home and you find my picture in the drawing room, for me that's validation. So for me, validation is people coming again and again to my exhibition and actually buying those pictures for a good cause, and supporting it. So for me, validation is the fact that I'm able to sell pictures, photographs for a good cause. And therefore, if I'm able to sell more, then that's validation. For me, validation is not what is on social media. Let me also tell you this, that I've never been on social media. I only started social media 2 years ago on the insistence of my grandson. He said, Dada, you must do it. And so actually I started to please him. And I've got a very, very clear, mental divide on what I do. So on Instagram, for example, I don't post a single individual picture. My Instagram is for photography. So the whole idea of my starting Instagram was that if I have so many pictures, why don't I share it with the world? Because in an exhibition, I can so much. 300, 500, 600 people come to an exhibition. But what about the rest of the world? So can I carry it and share it with the rest of the world? That was the idea of Instagram. And I still maintain that. So on Instagram, I still have my photographs. I have some of my health talks. And I have just very, very short clippings of my singing, And on YouTube, which I've just started very recently, my own channel, I only do singing, And on my company YouTube, I have my health talks as well. So I'm very clear on what I project on what social media. And I'm not interested in how many followers I've got and how many people are following me. And I'm just happy that my friends enjoy it. And I just enjoy putting it out there. That's really the...
No, you're a person with, you're someone with so many different facets, it's incredible. Yes, I did see some of the singing. That you've actually held full-on concerts, okay, where you were singing in front of a stage, in front of an audience. So that is something that you do, and that's also a passion. You are an entrepreneur, that to a first-generation entrepreneur, who started Dr. Batra's homeopathy clinics all over the country, hundreds of them, in fact. You're treating about 10 lakh patients a year, I believe, and then photography. It does one, so has photography been influenced by some of these things, or were they all individual? Was your singing and your photography influenced by your business side of things? Were there learnings that you took from one side and brought to the other side? How was it really?
Not at all. Even though after photography, I did carry a bit of the learning in other things as well. But I didn't start photography with that. I did it for the fun of it. I do it because I enjoy doing it. It's the same with singing. I'm saying today everybody in India with a mobile phone is a photographer. If you look at it that way, But to really develop a skill to do it, good enough to have an exhibition and to sell some pictures it requires a talent,
Of course.
And similarly for singing, I'm saying today all of us are bathroom singers. That's how we all start. But come up in front of a stage and sing in front of 600 people and, live VIPs and musicians and with a live set of musicians, which is also today, a dying art, because today you don't have people, play -1 tracks and they sing and dance on stage, but to sing and play with a live orchestra, and to have different kind of instruments in sync and singing with them, it needs an effort, So I'm passionate about it. I make sure that I do riyaz every day if I'm at home, in Bombay. I have a Guruji coming home to teach me. For me, also singing is meditation. At the end of the day, it relaxes. And so also photography. I'm saying if I'm able to get, great pictures, I'm very happy, and I actually feel frustrated. Sometimes I must share this with you. I'm sure that all photographers have that thing because sometimes you plan and you go to a particular thing and the weather is supposed to be very good, and I only do outdoor photography. I don't do indoors, so I only do outdoor photography. And if I go there and the weather is bad and supposing it starts raining, and for 6 days you're just stuck in a hotel room and you can't get good pictures. And for outdoors you need light. And supposing it's cloudy and it's just not great and you don't get good pictures. I'm saying it's so frustrating to have traveled all the way to the other side of the world, planned it all, and then come back with not having good pictures. So I actually on my travel, I feel very happy if I get great pictures. So if on that day I'm able to, beautiful pictures, I say, oh wow. At the end of the day, I say, oh my God, this is a day which is full. It's very fulfilling.
Right. Absolutely. Photography is extremely fulfilling when you come back at the end of the day, you realize you have those special pictures, that that you got, but when you review it and you see it.
Answering that question of yours, because I think a bit of it was left out. When you said that, what is it that, whether I crossed over and, put some of my business knowledge into photography. No, it's actually the other way around. I mean, from photography, I've learned few things. So, for example, I've learned that you must capture the moment, And I remember that one of the things that I missed, and I still regret it, is, I was in a line with my family and I was waiting for one of the rides, with my kids in Disney World or one of these, theme parks in America. And just ahead of me, there was a tall guy, dark, and he had a little girl on his shoulder. And people were kind of moving around and, trying to say hello to him. And I had my cameras with me. And I didn't just take the picture. And that person, turned out to be Kobe Bryant, So I had him just a line, and, he just died recently in an accident. Now, I still, say that it's an opportunity lost. So it has taught me also that in business also, it's all about opportunities. When you get the right opportunity, how do you use it? So for me, it's the other way around. Like photography is all about opportunity and business is also all about opportunity. Similarly, I think also in medicine, it's taught me how to take quick decisions, because
I was about to ask you that, about homeopathy and photography.
Sometimes, well, okay, I'll come to homeopathy as well. For medicine, I'm saying it's a quick decision, So I'm able to treat many more people because I take the right decision. Because it's the same thing in photography. I'm saying now I take a picture in a second, I mean, I can take a picture even from a traveling car and I know exactly what I'm getting. I don't have to delete it. I don't have to, So I think that's an art that you develop over a period of time, and you can then carry it on in your. Similarly, talking about homeopathy, you just mentioned. So homeopathy is holistic. So photography is also holistic. So it's also the framing, it's also the colors, it's also the light. And this is also true about life again, because life also teaches you, one thing, that now we are going through a bad time. All of us are. Okay, we are all locked down at home. So you can't change the circumstance. But like photograph, you can change the perception. You can change the angle of the camera. And you can still get a good picture. So it's about life also. You can change your perception. I mean, we are locked in the home, but we can still be very happy. We have so much of time to ask so many new things that we are doing. I'm sitting at home and talking and reaching out to so many people through you. Side. I think photography teaches you all this. I think you just have to learn from it and enjoy it.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Photography is a good life teacher, and it's something that I've noticed as well. Especially when so I do a lot of street photography myself. It's something that I particularly enjoy. And the kind of insights that you get into human behavior, into people, like for instance, one of the things that I've realized from an experience that I've had on the streets is that art is not something that needs education or class to enjoy. It's something that can be enjoyed by the most common person on the street. The only thing is that you have to show it to that person. That's all that you have to do. You just have to present it to that person. That's all. And the person looks at it and also can enjoy it. And it's an amazing experience to know that.
So it's a mirror.
To connect over something. Yeah, it's a mirror. Absolutely.
It's a mirror of patterns, your feelings, and you can capture it all in one frame, and you can capture it for posterity. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about photography, And I agree with you.
Absolutely, yeah.
To kind of do faces earlier, street. I stopped doing it. Why have I stopped doing it? Because actually I don't find many happy faces today. So And today, no.
Oh my.
When you do street photography, I mean, what are you doing? I mean, are you shooting migrant laborers, which is such a sad scene? Are you taking picture of a baby on a bag being strolled, and walking miles? I'm saying all the pictures are so sad and they're so depressing. And of
Right.
course, the photographer, if you're a professional photographer or a news person, you have to represent it to the world. But if you have a choice, I want to do happy pictures. And also because what happens is I've had this experience that, they don't sell because people don't want a sad face in their drawing room. They're not looking for art. They're looking for also something that is, cheerful. So they like nature, they like beaches, they like sunset, they like sunrises, So I capture those rather than capturing faces. The only place where I really found some kind of happy faces were in Bhutan. I found children laughing, smiling from hearts out, a lot of happiness on the face. And with the monks over there, you could actually see so much of peace and compassion on the face. So yes, the face is a mirror.
Right.
Today, a lot of people, I think, are not very happy, and therefore it's a reflection of the ugly side which is inside, rather than the happy side which should come out.
Right. Although, let me admit that my photography, personally speaking, street photography is not only about the faces. It is about the faces,
Yes,
but it is also about found objects. It is about, something that I find somewhere. It could be very much a family portrait as well, that I might do just because, they come and ask me to take a family picture of, of their family out there. So, street photography is very enjoyable for me because I made lots and lots of friends. So going ahead, I can very easily say that, I'll be very well fed if I go to many places in Bombay. I'll be very well fed. I might be poor, but I'll be very, very well fed. That I'm sure of, because I made so many friends on the street. So, so that.
Your best. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you mentioned happiness in photography, and so what are your most memorable moments? What would be some of your really, really happy moments? What would be, do you have incidents that you can talk about?
I think that perhaps will take
a few anecdotes.
Will take till tomorrow morning. But, I've had happy incidents. I've also had sad and unhappy incidences in photography. So I think it's nice that I kind of narrate both. So I remember in my very first photo exhibition, which was in Kufri, which I didn't know that time I was going to do a photo exhibition. I was riding, and it was snowing, and there was a snowstorm, and you have to tie these chains to the wheels. So my taxi had that, and there was a Maruti car in front of me, a van with a family, and it just rolled over, and everybody died. And that was just the car ahead of me.
Oh my!
And that was my first photographic exhibition. Similarly, I took one exhibition. I went for one photographic exhibition to Ladakh, and I did try to rest, but in spite of that, I got high altitude pulmonary edema. I almost died over there. I ran out of oxygen. I was lying on a floor in a bathroom outside in a military hospital until I got some help.
Wow!
Managed to fly back in an ambulance, almost back to Bombay. So there have been those kind of moments as well, because when you're passionate about something, you get excited, and you just want to do it. You can't wait. There have been. I'm saying I remember also, like I've done Himalayas in one day. I went to attend wedding of a son of a friend, and for one day in Kathmandu, and from there I took a flight and stayed somewhere else. I did Himalayas in the morning. I got the 3 a.m. chanting and people coming out, the sun coming out, and in the same evening I was back home in Mumbai. So in one day I was able to capture the sunrise in the Himalayas. So it's very memorable. I was able to do a in Hawaii. So when I was in Hawaii, I didn't actually get too many pictures in Hawaii. I was not very happy with Hawaii, with the thing that I thought I would get. But I was able to fly. I had to take 2 flights, drive, overnight, and then capture and then come back the same night at 12 o'clock. That means I was like on the road almost for 36 hours, just to get the early sunrise of a live volcano. It was one of the few live volcanoes which is there in Hawaii, and I managed to capture that very beautiful picture. The sun setting, just the sun rising, just a volcano with ash, coming out like that. Very pretty picture. So I think, of these one pictures, you actually are blessed if you can get those shots, and it makes it very memorable. So really, I think it is the shot and this thing that and the experience that goes behind it, which adds to memories.
Of course. Speaking about your exhibitions, you mentioned the exhibitions. Speaking about exhibitions, you now have, for the past some time now, you've actually been doing exhibitions, and the idea is actually an altruistic motive behind it. So that's really interesting, because a lot of times when photographers think of putting up an exhibition, the motive is not altruistic; it is rather sort of a self. It's almost like an ego massage sometimes, but at the same time, for you, it's not the same thing. So how did the idea of altruism with magical moments come out to be? How did that work out? When did that begin, and up to what heights? Your last exhibition, of course, was in March this year, but how did it happen, and tell us something about the story of how it progressed, and how large it has become now.
So I've just been lucky, I would say. Okay, so like I said, starting from the first exhibition, then my company kind of supports me and sponsors me, so I get that to happen. Now this time, I also involve a lot of NGOs. So people from municipal children come, they paint. People sponsor the paints. They sponsor them for their milkshake, food. All of that happens. So every day there's a kind of a streaming group of visitors that comes to see, and it's very, very. It's not just the cause of that one day exhibition, but it's also throughout the entire 10 days or 9 days when the exhibition is happening. Similarly, also,
right.
we are also able to.
Right.
Similarly, we are also able to have similar exhibitions in other cities. So what normally happens is that as a company, we are dealing with NGOs in different cities. So we tap with those NGOs, local NGOs. So for example, somewhere the collections of the exhibition go to an old age home, for example, in Chennai and in Bangalore, and similarly in Pune. But in Bombay, they go to the visually challenged. That was a very, that's how it started. Because if I can bring nature and beautiful pictures and just bring them over, and for the benefit of people who can't see, I thought that would really, really touch me a lot, and make me very happy if I could make that successful. So started with that, and then I started going into multiple cities in India. Then I also had an international exhibition in one of the top galleries in Dubai as well, and that also did pretty well. I got good media write-ups, and I think people are really shocked, really, if I use that word, to actually find the doctor as a photographer. I'm saying wherever I go, they think of how can you take out the time, how do you manage to do it, how do you manage to get such good pictures, all of that. So I think it's just not a photographer. But I think, a doctor being a photographer is something that, and of course, there are quite a few doctors who are doing it now. I mean, they're doing very good photography. There are many others.
Right.
But that's what kind of, people find amazing.
Being a photographer and also being with Better Photography as the editor of the magazine, I'm not so very surprised, because I know that, there are many medical practitioners, many doctors who practice photography as a hobby. And some of them are really incredibly very, very good, at their photography. In fact, surprising. I think it's also a matter of doctors being able to, get used to the technicalities of picture making, because photography at one point, yes, but there is a certain mathematics to framing. There is a certain science behind visualization, which I think may be that doctors find it easier to grasp, because their minds are trained that way, over so many years of their own rigorous studies.
Also, I think
possibly
it's also the emotional angle, because I think what happens is that in our own practices, we see so much of pain, death, suffering all around, that somewhere I think we also need to find a release, and photography is a wonderful way, because it also gives you an emotional release. It makes you feel happy. Like I said, if you get good pictures, makes you also feel useful to society in more ways than one. I mean, you're already doing a lot in medicine, but this can be an extension, So yes, I agree with you that, doctors do make good photographers, other than making, being good in medicine as well. One more thing that I wanted to add, because you asked me that question the last one, is the progression. So my last exhibition was actually sponsored by the Western Australia. tourism department, you know. And I was actually invited to Australia to shoot for them, and they have something, incredible wildflower season. So I went on the wildflower trail. So they have about, I think, some 12,000 or 16,000 wildflowers in a, in a couple to 2 weeks, and you have to actually follow them. And every week they kind of keep changing. So I was lucky enough to do that and to capture those and then bring that back to India. So that was my last exhibition, and kind of that also made me progress a lot because of the fact that I could get sponsorship from from a country to invite me and to actually ask me to shoot for them, and they have a choice of so many professional photographers.
Correct.
Now
Correct. That's right.
By other countries, of course. Now with COVID, I don't know what's going to happen, but I also had some other invitations as well. So it's an evolution that's happening, and it's keeping me going, and I'm happy to do this.
Right. So which would be some of the favorite places in the world for you? The favorite places you have visited? You said you
asking, which is the favorite child. That's always a very, very difficult. You will appreciate as a photographer that, every picture that you like is special. Otherwise you won't take it. Why would you take a picture not special? It has to be special.
Correct.
I think that's, I think all pictures are great. That is the ones that you select. I'm saying now, for example, even my last exhibition, I think I must have put up about 73 or 75 photos, but I must have taken more than 3,000. So if I've selected pictures, then those are really favorite pictures. But by and large, like I said, that I like those, and therefore anything which is clean, beautiful. I find Europe very fascinating. So all countries in Europe, whether it's Austria, Germany, Switzerland, Scandinavian countries, very beautiful. Countryside in England is also very pretty. I found Alaska very pretty as well. So I believe anywhere where I good outdoors, I'm very excited. And I've had some good experiences also because, like for example, in Maldives, where I was staying, the hotel where I was staying, they organized a seaplane for me to take pictures. So I managed to get photographs on a seaplane. This time in Australia, one of the kind of local MLAs, because I went to his territory, his area. He had a kind of a private plane for me to shoot. So I got beautiful aerial pictures of Australia, of Rottnest Island, and so, Rottnest Island, and so on and so forth. So then I've done some underwater pictures, photography as well in Maldives. So it's been it's been fascinating. It's not just the static pictures that you take. Otherwise, it's a combination of everything, and there's a lot to learn.
Correct. That is true. So this is a question I want to ask you as a photographer, and I keep asking this question to a lot of photographers because it's interesting to see, the response. And there's a lot that one can learn from, a photographer by the choice of lenses that they have. So let me ask you this: which are your favorite lenses to shoot?
I have now actually stopped carrying. I have had so many lenses. I just carry the standard one, the 45 to 70, whatever that is. And I've just not. I have many lenses. I don't carry it now because I believe that, unless you're going to a game reserve, you want to close up, then you take a telescopic. Or like for example, when I went to Alaska, I wanted to catch the whales, the humpback whales jumping. So the tele lens, But otherwise, I find it. I actually find it very cumbersome to carry so much of equipment when you travel, And I'm now actually looking for lighter cameras and just one standard, which I find that can capture almost everything, and that's where I am today. Where I don't actually, I have a lot of other lenses, but now I try not to carry them unless it's some kind of a special area like wildlife. I'm looking at, like carrying, like I said, like the humpback whales in Alaska. Then I would carry it. Otherwise, no.
Right. So Dr. Batra, as a individual, you have done so many things. You are a good singer. You mentioned this earlier. It's a question that I again want to bring up and ask: how do you find the time for everything? How do you find the time for doing so much and managing a business as a businessman, as an entrepreneur, as a singer, as a learning music, as a photographer?
I think
how did you balance it out?
I think there are two things, just two words for it. Number one is planning, and number two is delegation. So if you plan well and you delegate, learn how to delegate, I think you have enough time to do whatever you want to do. Okay. Like I told you that it doesn't take much time. It will take me maybe like about 15 days to do research for the country which I want to select. Okay. I have a research team that helps me, like my girl who's with me for so many years. She will actually make sure that she does little research of the countries where I've not been and, put all that ready for me. So my time really, maybe about 2 days or 3 days goes in the preparation on which country to select. Then I have the help of the local embassies. So I tell them I'm going to this country, then they will send somebody to tell me, okay, this is the best shot you can get. So I don't waste that time. I have some local person to guide me.
Right.
Again, and to help me out. So I don't waste a lot of time there. Again, then I plan it. So I can go to a city for 4 days and I can cover everything there in 4 days. Because I can take 1,000, 200, 1,500 pictures in a day, enough pictures. It depends on how scenic and how beautiful the country or the city is. And then it takes me another month or 45 days to actually put it all together, to select the pictures, to kind of design the walls. Now, again, for that, I have a team of people. So they kind of keep, moving from 3,000 to say 1,000 pictures. Then I will sit on the 1,000 pictures. So it takes me another 3 or 4 working days to do that. And then, of course, the exhibition itself. So all in all, it's about, I think maybe 6 or 7 full days in a year because that kind of time. And then, of course, another 6 years. So about 15 days in a year.
I wish
15 days in a year that we love is absolutely.
I really hope my wife is, not logged in and watching this, because she tells me these 2 words every time, and, and she's going to now make an example. She's going to make you an example and say that, look, if Dr. Batra is saying it, you have to now think about doing it now, really. So planning and delegation, those are important things. And so the COVID-19 situation, of course, Dr. Batra, being a doctor, is something that I would like to ask you specifically about the COVID-19 situation. It is, historically, we know that it is not a unique situation to the human species. Once every epoch, or once every, let's say, century, there have been situations that has literally practically wiped out a percentage of the human race. There have always been these kind of situations in our history. Having traveled all over the world and having seen humanity also, and having seen the other side of things, having seen the wild, having seen wild landscape in various forms. What are your thoughts on this pandemic? What are your thoughts on this? Or do you have?
I think it has been all along, and I think we brought it ourselves, the human race, because we are encroaching spaces of animals. There's too much of proximity that is happening because we are taking over their land, and at some stage, there's global warming. So you can see that, cities are getting hotter. You can see, for example, that 2 days ago, there were hailstones in Delhi at a time like this in summer, so the weather is changing, the ice caps are changing, the oceans are rising. So with all of the migration of animals, and ultimately you're going to get less and less natural beauty left in the world, because all of it is going to be architectural and man-made. So to have that and to save that, this is like a warning that has come for mankind, I would say, not just societies, to make sure that we start, slowing down, make sure that we are looking after our environment and looking after the animals around us. I think that's very important. And this is the first thing. The second thing also is, it's also then teaching us how to slow down, how to understand that going to office just in a tie is not the end of the world. Not everything that we really wanted. Today we learned, everything is going to be the new normal now. Not going to be the same world when we step out. We also need to understand that health also is self-governed. While yes, you can have governments telling you that, isolation and all that. How long is it going to work? The moment you open the gate, you're going to be up.
Correct.
So unless we start looking after, it's given us more focus on our own personal fitness, on making sure that we build our own immunity, on making sure that our lifestyles are good and healthy, and therefore I think we are moving towards a world. Are we going to really move from sickness to wellness? Are we going to focus on sickness that the world was before COVID, or are we going to move into a world uh, are we going to move into the world of wellness, where we want to be fit and we want to be healthy? And also, I think together with this, also not just our own selfish, you know, goal, what we have all this time. We also have to look at societal goals. So you want to look at personal hygiene. I'm saying you can't step out and then the roads. All that has to change. I think COVID is teaching a lot of. It's about time that we learn. And ultimately, I think the focus is going to be on fitness, and the focus is going to be on immunity building, and the focus is going to be also on societal awareness, where we are going to start looking after other people as well, not just ourselves. And so I think a lot is going to be about sharing and caring. It's not just going to be about us.
Absolutely, it's a wake-up call. This is a wake-up call, and traditionally speaking, we know that there would be a wake-up call. There would be humans who will react to the wake-up call for a while, and then slowly things go back to square one. Which is unfortunate that it keeps happening again and again and again. And I think even that is a part of this historical cycle that we've been going through. Considering this, what would be your advice and recommendation for conscious living, healthy living for the next few years, as someone who practices homeopathy and someone who's as the father of modern homeopathy?
I would say number one is that prevention is better than cure. So let's start looking at how to stay healthy, rather than worrying about falling sick and then looking at respirators and all those kind of things and panicking all around. So that's my first message, that stay healthy, stay fit, build immunity. Okay, now how do you do it? Let me tell you some 4 very simple steps. Step 1 is sleep well. When I was doing research for my book, which I published last year, called 13 Steps to Bloody Good Health, I found that one of the biggest, my first chapter is on sleep. I found that 93% of Indians are sleep deprived. And today you have sleep time and you also have your screen time. So screen time is now sleep time even more, So sleep well, that's the first thing, because if you're sleep deprived, a lot of health problems are going to happen. All right, number 1. Number 2 is make sure that they say food is medicine. Nourish yourself well. Make sure that you don't over diet, that you're not starvation diet. You're not trying to just look very good and you're going to go on these crazy diets that go on all the time. Make sure that you have a balanced diet. Make sure that we have home cooked food, warm home cooked food. Like we used to say, mother's cooking is always the best, because along with it. The third thing is move. We have become couch potatoes, so we actually need to they say that sitting is the new smoking. So make sure you get up from your seat every 20 minutes, take a short walk, walk a few kilometers from the house. Try to make sure that you're able to do that. I think the last thing, of course, is that you must learn how to relax. Positive thoughts and positive thinking is very important at a time like this. If you are under stress, your immunity will go down. If your immunity goes down, you're likely to be sick. So even going in the future, don't carry your worries with you, goes with you. Learn how to relax. It's not the end of the world. We have survived. Every country we have, and woman can get well. So let's let's just put our thoughts together. Make sharing photo. That we will care for ourselves. For other, the animal, for the climate. That would be.
Dr. Batra, thank you so much. It has been a great pleasure speaking with you on photography and especially for the last 2 questions. The advice that you've given is actually very, very sound. And even though some of these things are logical, and some of the things, it really, really does help to hear it from someone who has been practicing homeopathy for such a long time and who's been giving advice for such a long time. I think it is very, very essential for all of us to take care about these particular things. I know that speaking for myself, this entire lockdown period has become a very large, I used to be very sleep deprived earlier, but this lockdown period has actually helped me regulate my sleep timings. I've begun to sleep at a particular time, wake up at a particular time. Surprising that a lockdown period where you're at home actually begins to help you with something like this. And it has made a huge difference. I must admit, it has made a huge difference to my level of awareness, to my level of relaxation. So I completely agree that sleep is the first primary thing. It's one of the most important things. Thank you so much for being with us. It's been a wonderful session, and the pleasure is all mine. Thank you.
I'd like to just end by saying that, better photography is better life.
Thank you. That's a nice thought. Thank you so much.
God bless. Thank you.
Thank you. To all the viewers out there.
Yes.
To all the viewers out there, please visit Dr. Batra's Instagram page. You'll find interesting links over there. One of it says that Corona is not just a beer. There's another link over there that which takes you to Dr. Batra's YouTube page, which is also very interesting because you can find Dr. Batra singing over there. These are sides to an entrepreneur and the father of homeopathy, which you'll actually not see, in his regular practice or usually in other places. So please do visit Dr. Batra's pages, and thank you very much for watching. And please do join us. Please keep a lookout for our new lives. Thank you, Dr. Batra. Thank you.